Oh my God. Quiet, you. Quiet. Thank you, Motherbox. Once again, deep within the hidden nether regions of downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, from a secret, undisclosed location comes In the Library of Graphic Literature with your host, the truly mad librarian, me, Wallace Ryan. How's everyone this week? Good to hear you're doing good. Got a few cool books here this week. Not a huge amount, but you know, respectable enough. Now, before we get to the books, have a sip of tea first. English breakfast, not bad. Even though technically I'm not English and it's not breakfast time here. So we got a great little stack of books here for you this week. So let's get right to it. First up, for all you Marvel fans, we have Volume 3 of Marvel Team Up. Marvel Team Up was a cool comic that was out in the 70s. I actually used to buy it myself. Funny enough, I didn't buy The Amazing Spider-Man, but I would buy Marvel Team Up for some reason. It was one of the first when I made the switch, or not made the switch, but when I began to read Marvel along with DC. This was actually one of the titles that I started reading for some reason. I think it was the Spider-Man and the Vision comic that's not in this one, but was a bit later, and for some reason I seem to love it, so here we are today, still loving it. Okay, we got it unwrapped here. Oh yes, some nice work in here for sure. This there's only one from Gil Kane in this. This for the most part is Jim Mooney, and a couple of comics from Ross Andru. Ross Andru, definitely one of the most underrated Spidey artists, and Jason Conway, my good buddy at Downtown Comics, the resident Spidey specialist here in St. John's, Newfoundland, would agree with me. Jim Mooney, he was okay, he was serviceable. Sometimes there was something about his art that annoyed me, but I still put up with it. And Gil Kane, of course, what can one say about Gil Kane except that he's bloody perfect. Unfortunately, he only does one issue in this entire book, so that's a bit overdrag. But you know, what are you going to do? So let's have a close-up look here at some of this here. Okay, now that we'll start back here. This, of course, that's the Ross Andrews. Ooh. And the Gil Kane here. Here he's inked by Mike Esposito. Not one of my favorite inkers of his, but I loved a lot of this the 70s Marvel stuff, especially stuff Gil Kane did for him. But yeah, bloody cool. And then of course we get into the oh, I think this is this the Jim Moon? No, that's definitely oh, look at this, Jim Mooney. Like I say, he's not bad. He's not one of my favorite comic book artists, but you know, serviceable. Anyway, there's some cool stuff in there, and once again, if you're a big fan of Spidey, this is definitely one of the books for you. So check it out, Spider-Man, Volume 3, Marvel Team Up. Now let's see. Okay, I got a little stack there. I'm gonna do 3 of them almost at once, and you'll see why in a second. But this one, which I've been waiting and waiting and waiting on for weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months, is the first volume of the Disney Masters from Fantagraphic. This is the Delta Dimension, and this is by Romano Scarpa, one of the big European duck artists, one of, if not one of the biggest actually, and you know, good on Mickey too. Scarpa. I've seen some of his stuff here and there and some reprints, stuff like that, and there's something about his style I like. It has a really neat energy, and he worked on Disney comics for years and years. I can't wait to get to see some of the Duck stories, actually, because most of them I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah, I think most of them I actually have never seen print. But I thought it was so cool when I found out that Fantagraphics would be releasing this set of books, and I also decided that I am going to get every single one of them if I can. So the first one in this new series, Mickey Mouse, the Delta Dimension. It looks cool. I've never read any of these, of course, myself, but I'm a big Mickey Mouse fan. I love the Gottfrieds and stuff, and I figure this. I always kind of like Mickey Mouse. There's something about him. I know he's used almost pejoratively by some comic book people or cartoon fans, but I'm a big fan of the mouse. So here's the book. Nice looking there, and let's have a quick look at some of the pages of good old Mickey. It's slightly different from what I'm used to, but hey. The best thing about these too, these are coming out like every month or so. It's which I like. It's that's one thing I find with some books, that they just take too long for them all to come out. Case in point, the Carl Barks library. I wish they'd put those out a bit more often. But in the meantime, this will do. Look at that. I mean, such clean lines. As many of you know, I'm a fan of simplicity and the like, and this is pretty simplistic. So make sure you get it. The Delta Dimension, Mickey Mouse. Okay, now this is the big thing for today. And actually, speaking of Mickey Mouse, we'll start with another Disney book. But the great thing about the next three books is, well, of course, we have one from Marvel, one from Fantagraphics, and we have 3 books this week. Not 1, not 2, but 3 books this week from the Library of American Comics. Yay! As you all know, I love everything from the Library of American Comics. And these are some of my favorites, actually. I love these Treasury of Classic Tales from Disney. These have basically these strips that were color strips, and they're adaptations of different things. From in this one, Darby O'Gill, Kidnapped, Pollyanna, Swiss Family Robinson, 101 Dalmatians, Bon Voyage. So, and you got artists from Jesse Marsh to let's see, Bill Wright, actually John Ushler. Actually, most of it does look like it's Jesse Marsh, who I love because of his simplicity of his line and everything like that. Beautiful books. I'll take the dust jacket off this as I hold it up for you to peruse, but here we go. It's a beauty, isn't it? Now, check this out here. There's one page there. Third Man on the Mountain, Pollyanna. Some more Pollyanna. Look at this color. Color abounding. Color jumping right off the page at you. Ah! But yes, absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Oh, here's Nikki. And Big Red. But like I say, absolutely beautifully made books. I'm a big fan of, well, I'm a big fan of Disney, and I'm a huge fan of this Treasury of Classic Tales. These are just really cool. For any fan of Disney, or even any fan of, you know, sort of older classic stories and all that, definitely you want to be picking this up. Now let's slide the dust jacket back on it. I know I've seen on online one time where someone told me that they threw away the dust jackets when they bought a book, and almost stroked out just hearing that. I can't believe that, right? There's so much a part of the book. Next is Superman, the Golden Age Dailies. Pretty cool, hey? I'll haul the jacket off this. I love these covers by Plasky. He has a real way of getting the style of Superman down, and I think for the most part these are probably Wayne Boring strips. Let's have a look here. Artwork by Wayne Boring. So yeah, for the most part of this is, yeah, actually it looks like it's all Wayne Boring. And it's funny because I have a love-hate thing going on with Wayne Boring. There's the love part of it because when I was growing up, he was one of the big artists, at least in a lot of the reprints that I would see, stuff like that. And I don't know, there was something about it that was kind of neat in a way, something I liked. I was never a fan of the barrel chest that he used to draw him in, but I mean, otherwise, you know, it was still pretty good, right? And of course, you know, anything Superman related. I was actually one of these people who was a Superman fan growing up. I don't care what people say, I liked Superman when I was growing up. So here we go. Check this out here. Look. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, of course, these are all black and white strips. But, you know, the reproduction is pretty good. A lot of times I've found on some, with some companies and all that, when they do the reproduction on some of these strips, the quality is a little bit sketchy, and sometimes it might even be hard to read some strips and all that. But I'll give you folks at Library of American Comics your due. You actually do a great job of printing them nicely too. So high production values, and high points from me for these high production values. Yet another book from the fine folks at the Library of American Comics. So a big shout out to Curtis and to Dean Mullany there. Keep up the great work, guys. You know I love you. Okay, now let's wrap this in its wrapping once again. Oh God, love them. Love them, love them, love them, love them. Whew! Time for a sip of tea. Now, before we go any further, yet another fine book from the fine folks at the Library of American Comics, Dick Tracy. Now this is this one unfortunately doesn't have the same cover as the slip as the cover. Now let's see, this is mainly from 67 to 69. Dailies and Sundays, Chinchilla and Posey. Some of the, as it's been getting along more and more, some of the Dick Tracy, not too bad, some of them not that great, but overall I'm a huge Dick Tracy fan. Now even some of the later ones, actually, in some of the chapters and all that, I've actually liked and all that. I love the early Dick Tracy too. First 10 years wasn't bad, but you know, it was more of a crime strip. It took a while for it to really get going into what we know today as Dick Tracy. But I mean, I've been loving it. I mean, a lot of times when I'm buying books, I'll buy them and they go right on my shelf. Mainly if I've read them before. Now some I do put on because I mean, I got it reading a stack of books, probably about twice that I'm trying to make my way through. So you know, I do try to read the book. Some I put away until I get the entire set that I read right through in an orgy of reading. But the Dick Tracy I've been reading since I first started collecting them. Now, of course, they're one of the first books that the Library of American Comics put out, and so I've been reading these for got over 10 years anyway, and I love them. I love them. I'll never forget, actually, my fondest memory of this was when I was living in New York. I first started collecting them there. And I used to shop at St. Mark's Comics on St. Mark's Place in New York City. Big hi to you folks there, Mitch and all you guys. I love that place. And I can remember I bought the latest and brought it home, brought it back to the studio, and I sat down and I started reading, and it was just like, this story seems familiar. Then to my horror, I realized I'd bought the same book. I'd bought a book I already had. But I brought it back, and I mean, like I say, Mitch and all the folks, they were great at St. Mark's Comics, no problem. I switched it up for the one I was actually looking for. I miss you guys. Actually, you guys were great to me down there. Love you to death. I used to also like going to the was the St. Mark's store also in Brooklyn at the time. I used to like going to that one there too, and Jim Henley's was also another favorite of mine. But my comic store, without doubt, my personal comic book store in New York City is St. Mark's. So anyway, let's have a close-up look here. Look at this. Dig this. Now, of course, it's all black and white inside. But what I like about Dick Tracy is just that those solid, heavy blacks of his. I mean, you can even see it a mile away, right? A great storytelling, amazing stories. The funny thing about these, and I never realized it until it was I was well into them, is that Gould used to kill off his villains, you know, usually at the end of whatever run it was of that particular strip. So a lot of the early classic heroes died at the end of their particular adventure, and it kind of shocked me when I was first reading it, because I thought, you know, that a lot of these characters would be around for a while. It was just like, oh my God, stop killing them off there, Mr. Gould. But yeah, absolutely wonderful. I love this stuff. There's just something about the characters that he would create, and once again, there's a certain luridness to Dick Tracy that I kind of like. Same luridness I feel when I'm reading stories like Crime Doesn't Pay and some of the early 30s comics and 40s comics. You know, there's something about true crime comics and that type of, you know, I love true crime, and I love so any type of police or detective type of comics, I'm usually a big fan of. So, sip of the tea. Oh, last weekend too was Free Comic Book Day, so I hope everyone got out and got themselves some free comics. I also hope that when you were in your local comic book store, that besides just picking up the free comics, that you actually bought something too, because a lot of people don't know that the retailer actually pays for those comics that he's giving out for free. So, you know, when you're there, just buy another comic. You know, just show your support. And not only that, come back every week, buy another comic. Even if you just buy one comic, that's all we ask. So, me lovelies, me darlings, I think that's about it for this week. Yes, it is, I do believe. Now next week, there's a few good things coming out next week. I'm not going to tell you what they are, and they'll be a surprise. But it should be fun. I'm hoping, hopefully this weekend, if I can, to do another special episode. Oh, be quiet, you. Yes, no, quiet. I'm hoping to be able to do a special episode of about comics for young people, for 9-year-olds, or books for 9-year-olds, and hopefully you'll be starring my granddaughter Sophia, who you always see, everyone sees at the end of my little text for every video. You'll always see a PS, I love you, Sophia, and all that. So it's always to her, and she always wanted to appear. And some people have even asked me, when are we going to see this Sophia? So hopefully, maybe it'll be this weekend. But she's she's, you know, she got a few books that she really likes, and hopefully we'll bring them on, and that'll be a extra special episode, because she's a scream. Anyway, that being said, it is time for me to bid you farewell. I love you all. Time to call that boomtube. Yes. Stop that pinging. Stop that pinging. Call me a YouTube. A boomtube. Oh my God. Oh, you should see it. It's huge here. Oh my God, it's starting to suck me in. Oh. Okay, see you next week.